What if the very aspect you observed draws girls is really repelling them? There's a man checking his smartphone for the 0.33 time in 10 mins. He sent a considerate message hours ago. Nonetheless, no respond. His thoughts races. Did he say something wrong? Have to he ship every other text? In the meantime, another man hasn't checked out his telephone all day. He has been targeted on his paintings, his desires, his own inner global. While he ultimately examines his messages that night, he unearths 3 texts from girls who have been considering him. What separates those guys is not appears, cash, or allure. It is something deeper, something most guys in no way apprehend, approximately the nature of desire itself. We've been taught backwards. We assume attraction is ready, giving extra, doing greater, being extra to be had. But human psychology works in reverse. The more difficult you chase, the faster a person runs. The more you provide freely, the much less valuable it will become. 500 years in the past, Niccolò Machiavelli studied energy in all its forms. No longer simply political power, but the invisible forces that make one man or woman magnetic and another invisible. He understood something maximum guys today have forgotten. That appeal is not approximately what you supply. It's about what you withhold, no longer through manipulation, but through genuine self-appreciate. Machiavelli wasn't writing approximately dating. He became writing approximately human nature, approximately why humans are interested in power and repelled by using weakness, approximately why scarcity creates desire and abundance kills it. These concepts have not modified in 5 centuries due to the fact they're rooted inside the psychology of fee itself. By means of the cease of this exploration, I'll proportion Machiavelli's most risky insight, approximately desire. The only that explains why shortage creates hunger and abundance kills it, why the person who needs nothing instructions everything. Here's the uncomfortable truth maximum men refuse to stand. The very behaviors they suppose reveal love clearly exhibit desperation. Consider the last time you really wanted something, a job, a friendship, and possibility. Remember the fact that electricity of want, of attaining, of trying to fill a gap interior yourself. Now reflect on consideration on things that came easily, the opportunities that appear to discover you rather than the opposite manner round, which felt extra valuable. That is the paradox that destroys most men's probabilities before they begin. They approach enchantment from vacancy, trying to use someone else's interest to fill a void in themselves. But emptiness cannot appeal to fullness. Need cannot magnetize abundance. Girls experience this without delay. While a person's electricity screams, "I need you to validate me," something deep in her psychology recoils. Now not because she's cruel, but because neediness looks like a weight she does not need to hold. Machiavelli understood this in each place of human interaction. Human beings clearly flow closer to power and away from weak spot, towards self-belief and far from desperation. Closer to those who seem whole and far away from folks who need finishing touch. Most men deliver their electricity away before the interplay starts off evolved. They determine she's more treasured than theirs. They provide their time, interest, and power freely, then feel harassed when these gifts aren't valuable. But price isn't always decided via the giver. It is determined by means of shortage, by way of what a person need to invest to reap something. When you make yourself constantly available, you make yourself commonplace. And commonplace things don't inspire preference. Rule 1, the artwork of strategic withdrawal. Strength flows toward folks that do not desperately want it. This was Machiavelli's first lesson, approximately human nature, and it applies as much to appeal as politics. The moment you end up emotionally depending on a person's response, you hand them all the electricity. The moment you prevent chasing, something shifts. The balance recommendations return towards you. Strategic withdrawal is not approximately playing games or being bloodless. It is approximately simply having a life worth defensive. Consider guys who naturally appeal to girls without trying. They're now not walking elaborate schemes. They are honestly dwelling full lives. They have work that topics, dreams they may be pursuing, friends they cost. While a woman enters their world, she's welcomed, but she's now not the middle of it. This creates a very specific dynamic. As opposed to revolving their world around her, they invite her to join their current orbit. In place of texting constantly, they attain out once they have something meaningful to share. What occurs next regularly surprises men who have spent years chasing. She starts off evolved, achieving out more. She begins making an investment effort to capture his interest. She wonders what he is doing while he's not responding without delay. That curiosity, it truly is the beginning of proper interest. Machiavelli observed that people clearly cost what they should paintings for. Whilst you're continually available, constantly responding, continually accommodating, you cast off all experience of challenge from the interplay. You grow to be like historical past tune, fine perhaps, however not in particular important. However, when you have authentic limitations around it, slow and attention, while your availability is restricted due to the fact your existence is full, all of a sudden your presence will become something valuable. The person who practices strategic withdrawal doesn't ignore ladies to manipulate them. He is virtually engaged together with his very own reason. Whilst he's with her, he is absolutely gift. When he is no longer, he's centered on his very own international. The withdrawal isn't the intention. The fullness of your personal lifestyles is the aim. While you definitely do not need a person else's interest to experience complete, you evidently end up less to be had. Now, not via method, but through authentic engagement along with your own motive. Rule, the power of hid depth. By no means display all your playing cards right now. This turned into certainly one of Machiavelli's center techniques for retaining strength, but at famous something deeper, approximately human psychology, we're certainly drawn to incomplete picks. Our minds need to fill in the gaps to clear up the puzzle to understand the thriller. Most men method appeal like an open book. First conversation, they percentage their existence story. First date, they monitor their private fears and desires. They suppose transparency equals intimacy. That vulnerability creates connection. However, intimacy is not built through information dumps. It's constructed through sluggish revelation, through incomes the right to recognize a person's depths. Whilst you display the whole lot right away, you rob the alternative individual of the delight of discovery. Consider the maximum captivating humans you've got recognized. Were they those who instructed you the whole thing about themselves within the first hour? Or were they those who revealed themselves slowly in layers, leaving you usually curious to recognize more? Machiavelli understood that statistics is electricity, now not due to the fact knowledge itself is energy, but due to the fact the manage of information creates psychological leverage. While a person is aware of the whole lot about you without delay, they can categorize you, record you away, stop being curious about you. But while you preserve a few thriller, while you display yourself progressively, you create what psychologists name the interest hole. The space among what someone is aware of and what they need to realize. That gap, it is where an hobby lives. This doesn't mean being secretive or cheating. It matter no. How? The distinction between privateness and secrecy. Privacy is choosing not to share the whole lot abruptly. Secrecy is hiding things that should be discovered. The mysterious guy is not hiding his flaws or pretending to be someone he's not. He is simply permitting the opposite person to find out who he is over time. Each communique exhibits something new. Each interaction provides every other layer to their knowledge of him. Mystery works because it respects the natural rhythm of human connection. While you attempt to fast-track this process by revealing the entirety right away, you really graduate it down. You weigh down as opposed to intrigue. This is what Machiavelli meant when he spoke approximately concealing your complete strength. Not to misinform, however, to preserve the element of discovery that maintains others engaged and curious approximately who you absolutely are. Rule 3. Emotional sovereignty. A prince who can't control his feelings cannot manage his state. Machiavelli wrote those phrases approximately political management. However, they reveal a deeper fact about all human relationships. The person who masters their emotional country holds the actual electricity in any interaction, not due to the fact they may be cold or unfailing, however, because they are no longer enslaved through each shift in mood or circumstance. Watch how maximum guys react while matters don't cross according to plot. She takes longer to reply to a text, and all of a sudden, he is analyzing each word of his final message. She cancels dinner plans, and he spirals into doubt, approximately her hobby. She mentions every other man in passing, and jealousy floods his gadget like poison. These reactions experience natural, even justified, but they monitor something that kills enchantment quicker than nearly something else. A person who cannot adjust his own emotional nation appears fundamentally unstable, and instability, no matter how comprehensible, is not appealing. Women are looking for this all the time, typically without realizing it. They are watching how you deal with uncertainty, unhappiness, strain. Something deep in their psychology is asking an essential question. Is this a person who can handle existence's inevitable demanding situations, or will he crumble when things get difficult? Emotional sovereignty doesn't imply suppressing your emotions or pretending the whole lot is great whilst it is not. It way now not allowing external occasions to dictate your inner nation. It method responding to conditions instead of reacting to them. Whilst she does not textual content back right away, the emotionally sovereign man does not create memories about what this indicates. He truly continues together with his day. While plans alternate unexpectedly, he adapts without drama. While she tests his boundaries or endurance, he stays calm and centered. This isn't approximately being impassive. It is about being emotionally loose. Loose from the tyranny of desiring steady reassurance. Loose from the exhaustion of trying to manipulate different human beings' conduct. Free from the anxiety that comes from making someone else chargeable for your happiness. Machiavelli understood that emotional reactivity is a shape of weakness that others can take advantage of. While your feelings are predictable, while humans know exactly which buttons to push to get a reaction from you, you end up clean to manipulate. However, whilst you continue to be composed regardless of what is taking place around you, you preserve your electricity. Inside the context of attraction, emotional sovereignty is magnetic as it signals energy without aggression, self-belief without arrogance. It shows which you're not desperately dependent on her popularity of your emotional nicely being. You want her organization, but you don't want it to experience solid. That is what Machiavelli referred to as the foundation of all energy. No longer the potential to control others, however, the ability to control yourself. And in relationships, the person that has mastered themselves evidently becomes the only others are interested in. Observe. Rule 4. Barriers as magnetic force. Respect is not given freely. It need to be commanded through constant standards. Maximum guys agree with that kindness and accommodation will win a female's coronary heart. They assume that saying yes to everything, tolerating any conduct, and being endlessly no, how will display their fee as a companion. However, this technique backfires in a manner that most guys never recognize. While you accept remedy that you do not appreciate, you educate others which you don't appreciate yourself. And if you do not admire yourself, why have to all and sundry else? Machiavelli determined that leaders who did not put in force obstacles inevitably misplaced their kingdoms. Now, not because they were overthrown by using enemies, but due to the fact their own humans stopped taking them critically. The equal principle applies in each human relationship. Without boundaries, admire erodes. Without recognize, appeal dies. Here's what maximum men omit about obstacles. They may be now not partitions you build to hold people out. They're requirements you keep to preserve yourself intact. If you have clear barriers, you are not being tough or disturbing. You are being clean about how you anticipate to be handled. A girl can feel immediately whether a person has obstacles or no longer. She feels it in how he includes himself, how he responds to demanding situations, how he handles conditions where his standards might be compromised. When you have no boundaries, every interaction becomes a negotiation. She can push a touch similarly whenever. See what you may tolerate. Find out in which your limits absolutely are. This is not due to the fact she wants to harm you. It's because people certainly take a look at the systems around them to apprehend how stable they are. But if you have clear, consistent obstacles, something exceptional happens. She is aware of precisely wherein the lines are. There may be no confusion, no testing, no thinking how a ways she can push. This creates an experience of safety and protection that maximum ladies rarely experience with men. The man with boundaries doesn't get irritated while a person crosses a line. He does not combat or argue or attempt to convince them to deal with him better. He genuinely continues as well-known. If the behavior maintains, he removes himself from the situation, not dramatically, now not to punish, but because he values himself too much to just accept remedy that doesn't align along with his really worth. This creates an effective dynamic. In preference to chasing admire, he instructions it. Instead of begging to be dealt with properly, he expects it. And when a person is round someone who definitely expects proper remedy, they generally tend to upward thrust to that expectation. Putting boundaries would not push top humans away, it attracts them. The lady who respects herself desires to be with a man who additionally respects himself. She would not want a person she will stroll all over. She wants a person who values himself enough to preserve his standards. The most magnetic excellent isn't having no requirements. It is having standards which you maintain with quiet self-belief without anger or drama, certainly due to the fact you recognize yourself an excessive amount of to accept much less than you deserve. Rule 5. The sovereign self. A person must rule his own nation before he can appeal to allies to join it. That is possibly Machiavelli's maximum profound insight, and the one that separates guys who command enchantment from people who beg for it. Sovereignty isn't always about dominating others. It is approximately being absolutely self-ruled, self-directed, and self-contained. Maximum guys technique relationships from an area of incompleteness. They are looking for someone to fill a void, to provide their existence, that means, to lead them to feel whole. But emptiness can't attract fullness. A person who desires a female to complete him offers her nothing but the burden of his incompleteness. The sovereign man is unique. He has constructed a life that he clearly enjoys living. He has work that fulfills him, goals that force him, passions that preserve him. While a girl enters his global, she's not filling an opening. She's including richness to something that become already entire. This completeness is magnetic in a manner that desperation never can be. When you're truly content material together with your personal organization, when you have a project that excites you, whilst your existence has shape and motive unbiased of any courting, you grow to be someone well worth understanding. Reflect on consideration on the distinction among those invitations. The primary man says, "Please be with me due to the fact I'm lonely and want someone to make me glad." The second one says, I'm building something lovely with my life. Would you want to be a part of it? Which invitation might you take delivery of? Sovereignty method, never leaving behind your path for anyone. When you have a commercial enterprise to build, you construct it. If you have health dreams, you pursue them. Your priorities don't shift simply because a person appealing enters your existence. This doesn't suggest you're inflexible or unwilling to find time for relationships. It weighs some time is precious, as it's already allotted to significant hobbies. When you pick to spend time with someone, it carries weight because it's an aware desire, not a default alternative. Most men make the mistake of reorganizing their whole lifestyles around a female's timetable. They drop their plans when she calls, they abandon their routines to house her options, they sacrifice their dreams to prove their devotion. This feels romantic to them, but it has the opposite impact on her. When you abandon your challenge for a person, you communicate that your assignment wasn't that vital to begin with. But while you hold your path whilst making space for her on your life, you display her something uncommon. A man who is aware of who he is and where he's going. The sovereign guy brings her into his gravitational pull in preference to orbiting round hers. He has his own rhythm, his very own priorities, his own feel of cause. She does not ought to convey the load of being his complete global, because he already has an international it's worth inhabiting. Machiavelli understood that actual power comes from no longer desiring anything from everybody. When you honestly don't need someone's approval to feel good about yourself, their approval turns into greater precious when it's given. When you do not need their presence to sense complete, their presence turns into a present rather than a need. This is why sovereignty is so attractive. It signals to others which you're not seeking out someone to prevent, fix you, or hold you. You're searching out someone to adventure with, to build something stunning alongside, to proportion the abundance of an already full existence. Ladies are specially interested in this exceptional, due to the fact they have encountered such a lot of guys who shapeshift depending on who they're with. The man who has his own country, who governs his personal lifestyles with know-how and energy, who desires not anything from her but wishes her organization, that man is uncommon, and rarity, as Machiavelli knew, is the muse of all fee. Here's what Machiavelli knew that maximum guys never examine. Desire isn't created by giving more. It is created with the aid of being extra. This sort of guidelines factors to the equal essential fact. Appeal flows towards completeness, no longer towards need. Closer to electricity, not closer to weak point. Towards the ones who have something to offer, not towards individuals who are desperately searching for something to receive. The man who stops chasing becomes well worth chasing. The person who maintains mystery will become well worth discovering. The man who controls his feelings becomes really worth respecting. The man who enforces obstacles will become really worth drawing near cautiously. The person who keeps his sovereignty will become well worth joining. This is Machiavelli's most risky perception about human nature. We don't desire what we are able to without problems have. We desire what we ought to earn. We don't cost what comes freely. We price what calls for funding. We do not chase what chases us. We chase what remains simply slightly out of reach. However, here's the vital point that separates manipulation from transformation. These aren't procedures to carry out, they're qualities to encompass. You don't vow to have a complete life to draw a person. You actually construct a full existence as it's well worth constructing. You don't fake emotional balance to seem attractive. You expand real emotional mastery as it makes you loose. While you without a doubt embody those concepts, something shifts. You're no longer seeking to get something from relationships. You are imparting something to them. You're no longer looking for a person to finish you. You are searching out a person worthy of your completeness. This is why scarcity creates starvation and abundance kills it. When your attention is scarce due to the fact your life is complete. When your feelings are strong due to the fact you have performed the inner paintings. When your limitations are clear due to the fact you respect yourself. Whilst your sovereignty is intact due to the fact you've built something well worth defensive. You grow to be a person really worth looking. The maximum appealing man isn't always the one who wishes girls most. It's the one who needs them least, but chooses them anyway, no longer from desperation, however from abundance. Now not from vacancy, however from fullness. Not due to the fact he has to, however because he desires to. If this shifted something in the way you see yourself in relationships, like this video and tell me within the remarks, is sovereignty something you're born with or something you need to earn? Those 5 guidelines aren't approximately manipulating girls into looking you. They may be about turning into someone really worth looking. They may be not processes to carry out, but truths to encompass, while you forestall chasing and start constructing. When you come to be mysterious through depth in place of deception. While you master your feelings instead of being mastered by means of them. When you command recognize through self-admire, while you hold your sovereignty at the same time as establishing your heart. You do not just become more appealing to women. You turn out to be more attractive to lifestyles itself. The man who lives by means of those concepts does not beg for love. He does not chase approval. He would not sacrifice his identity for brief affection. He gives something an awful lot rarer. The possibility to be with someone who's already entire, already grounded, already unfastened. And that wholeness, that groundedness, that freedom, it is magnetic in approaches that neediness in no way can be. Subscribe if this left you with something to reflect on, consideration on.